Hi everyone, this is Ryan. Today, we're going to explore one of history's strangest connections. How a Japan samurai spirit born in feudal Japan helped to spark the fall of the Russian Tsar and opened the way for the Bolshevik Revolution. In 19th century Europe, wars were not only about victory, but about balance. After Napoleon was defeated, the great powers created what they called the Concert of Europe. Its purpose was clear. No single nation should dominate, and no great power should be humiliated into collapse. Even when wars were fought, France against Prussia, Austria against Italy, the peace settlements left room for the loser to recover. Europe had learned the hard way that humiliation breeds revolution. The French Revolution and Napoleon had shown them what happens when a nation collapses completely. So, in Europe, diplomacy and war went hand in hand. Wars shifted territory and influence, but peace treaties restored equilibrium. The principle was simple. You defeat your rival, but you don't destroy him. But Japan saw things differently. Emerging from the Meiji Restoration, Japan studied Western science, industry, and military technology with astonishing speed. Its resilience and capacity to absorb modern knowledge were remarkable. Yet, Japan was not ready to embrace the deeper Western concepts of power politics or the Western philosophical tradition that had grown since the Renaissance. This is understandable. Europe had taken centuries, generation after generation, to create and internalize complex systems of diplomacy, political theory, and balance of power strategy. For Japan, which had leapt into the modern age in only a few decades, absorbing that entire intellectual world was almost impossible. In the absence of such traditions, Japan turned inward, drawing on the code it already understood. Beneath the modern rifles and steel warships, still burned the ethos of the samurai. This was the spirit of Bushido. Victory without compromise, death before dishonor. In Europe, a defeated nation could save face. In Japan, losing face meant ruin. The culture of war Japan carried into the modern world was one of total victory, not negotiation. In 1904, Japan confronted Russia over Korea and Manchuria. To Europeans, it looked absurd. A rising Asian state challenging one of the world's largest empires. But the war was fought in the samurai way, with relentless determination. At Port Arthur, Japanese forces bled Russian white. At Mukden, they broke the Russian army. And at Tsushima, Admiral Togo didn't just defeat the Russian fleet, he annihilated it. Out of 38 Russian ships, only a handful survived. This was not balance of power politics. This was decisive, uncompromising victory. For Russia, the defeat was catastrophic. The Tsar had promised his people that victory over Japan would restore national pride. Instead, the empire was humiliated by a nation Europeans had dismissed as backward. The psychological shock was enormous. The image of Russian strength was destroyed. And at home, the consequences were immediate. The revolution of 1905, mutinies, strikes, uprising across the empire. Nicholas II clung to power, but only by granting concessions he never truly respected. After Japan's victory, the Tsar's legitimacy was fatally wounded. From 1905 onward, Russia was a weakened empire. The Tsarist system never recovered its aura of authority. Every new crisis, economic turmoil, food shortages, World War I, widened the cracks first exposed in 1905. Then came the Revolution of 1917. The ideological force behind it had deep roots. The French Revolution provided a cradle for radical ideas, which were later transformed by Karl Marx into the vision of communism. Marx himself warned that the hound of hell would be unleashed, but originally he meant the fury of the bourgeoisie upon society. In Russia, this idea took on a terrifying new form. A hound of hell created by communism wreaked havoc on millions of people. When the Bolsheviks seized power, mass executions, forced collectivization, and the Red Terror tore through the Russian society. Millions perished, and entire social structures were shattered. Of course, Japan never intended this to happen, nor was it ill-willed. Japan was simply doing what it had been doing for centuries, fighting with discipline, honor, and the samurai spirit. Communism was a European disease, lurking for a chance. Japan unintentionally and unfortunately weakened Russia in a way that made it a cradle for this radical ideology. The samurai spirit deserves admiration. It endures in Japanese culture, in literature, and in the art of kendo. It is a symbol of discipline, sacrifice, and honor. But behind this romanticized image lies a darker truth. The very spirit that inspired courage also unleashed destruction. It humiliated an empire, destabilized Europe, and, yes, helped ignite the Bolshevik Revolution. Even Japanese scholars admit this uncomfortable fact. So, we must see the samurai spirit as a double-edged sword. It can inspire greatness, but it can also shatter the world order. That is the paradox at the heart of modern history. Thanks for watching. This is Ryan. See you in the next deep dive.